Hey guys, today's Facebook friend is Anne Emerson, and the bonus is that she plays in an awesome band called Alphaline featuring other awesome talented musicians that I now also get to meet and experience today here on the podcast. So on guitar, we have Stuart Crawford Brown.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
On bass, we have my friend Anne Emerson. How you doing, Anne?
Really
Great.
Cool. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. And Joshua Rose on drums. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. It's nice to be here.
They call you Kaz. It's Caroline Yardley on vocals.
Hey, folks.
So my friendship with Anne and the birth of Alphaline Band was formed during the lockdowns, as were many great relationships and projects. Today, I want to welcome my friend Anne and the members of Alphaline straight from, I guess you guys are from Berkshire, Surrey in England. Am I saying this right, or am I saying this like some messed up Canadian?
That's right.
Oh, yeah? No, bad. Okay, so thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so happy that we get to do this musical venture right now because, music is something that we all have very close to our hearts. It's something that comes in and out of our lives. You love it, you hate it, you dream about it when you're a kid, you keep on going. And as you get older, if you're able to hang on to that and do it for the right reason, then you can actually be part of something, that makes you feel like, yeah, this is like what I loved about it when I was a kid. I finally got it back once I passed all the soap opera fucking music shit that I'm sure that we've all gone through. Before we go down the musical rabbit hole, I just want to get my Anne thing out of the way, which is I want to thank you for the energy that you send me on a regular basis. It's the kind of interaction, with strangers that can make or break someone's day, even some people's lives in some cases, and it really tells me a lot about a person, just how honest they are, how consistency they are, the passion that they have that comes across to a total stranger. I think people like this could be great friends in real life, and you can tell that you can't even get this kind of vibe with like somebody who lives on your street. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Michelle, I have to say, it's thanks to you, during COVID that I kept my motivation going to continue practicing and just said, yeah, there is a way out there. And also your vibe and keeping the passion going has really helped us all throughout. So thank you, Michelle, for, and also all your new pedals and all new sounds. That's exactly what I love.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
As I get to discover the band and stuff, I get to see that you guys are also like totally into this great tweaky, futuristic kind of approach. You guys label yourselves as a band whose sound draws from trip hop, jazz, funk, alternative, psychedelic rock, all my favorite styles of music, by the way. And that is something, this kind of hybrid is something that happens in a band when musician with lots of different experiences and years of trying to find the right, combination of other musicians to get together to form a band. When this finally actually happens, you finally get to feel comfortable enough to be yourself, creating an effortless style that just happens from the combination of those people that are together. You know what I mean? Let's talk a little bit about that, about the birth of Alphaline and how comfortable you guys are together. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, I think this is quite an exciting project. And when we started, we weren't sure where we were going. But there was some really good energy in the room. I think what happened was I came out of a band that I'd been with for quite a while and then kind of got quite reclusive. I wrote a bunch of stuff. There was a lot of catharsis, really. My relationship had broken up. I just quit my job. The band had broken up. So everything had fallen apart at that time. And I had, quite a lot of emotion to work through. But at the same time, I wanted to reinvent my sound. And I just wrote a ton of stuff, but I kind of parked it. It was really just to get it out of me. And it was also about me finding the digital angle. I'd done that before with a previous band where we'd worked with electronic music, but I've always been a guitarist. And I came back to the electronica and brought out some of what I call the Bristol sound. And we parked that, but it was something that I shared with Anne when I met her and Joshua when we started working together on Ruby Dawn. I didn't stay with the band. I left. And then Anne came knocking on the door saying, hey, Stu, what's up?
I knew the guy had the sound. I couldn't leave him, out. I thought, no, we've got to do something. And Josh said, I agree. The rest is history.
Yeah, that's the stuff I had on SoundCloud was just a I guess, a starting point for sort of a blueprint. Even it was a rough sketch. I call those ideas rough sketches for some of the things that we wanted to work on. But they created at least a few ideas that we could then all start working with. And that was the original momentum. We had some material that felt like there was enough there. I had about 25 tracks. We picked out a few that we thought had quality to them and then started building those out. And then from there, we started really starting to figure out, well, what kind of sound did we really want to track? I already had worked with Anne and Joshua, so I knew them as a tight rhythm section before. They'd been working together for many years. We'd already got some really good groove and emotion into the stuff we'd done before. And a band where I was kind of just, adding atmospheric guitar on top, which is what I love to do. Lots of effects, really trying to create a palette of sound and thinking about colors or thinking about emotions and bring that out in the sound. And when you've got a great rhythm section, you can do that. The guitar is like painting on top. That's kind of what we were looking for, is how do we take that kind of emotion and bring that to life with this new project after Ruby Dawn. And then we came across Kaz, and that's really what completed the picture. When I first heard her voice, I was like, she's the one. We didn't know her, but she came in and auditioned, and we didn't even try auditioning other singers.
Hell no, yeah.
I was like this nervous little bird. Audition, oh my God. First audition, hilarious. Most nervous thing I've ever done.
Was that your first audition, like, ever?
That was my first ever audition ever.
Oh!
Yes. It was, that was a new thing. But, yeah, I'd always wanted to do more music and wanted to kind of be in a band. I put a little wish out there, and then this kind of happened. It was really strange how it all just came to be. And then I found myself with these three professionals. Like, how did this happen?
Oh, my goodness. So let me get this straight. So you're telling me that before this, you didn't even play in a band. You just wanted to be a singer?
I used to muck around with some guys years ago in a studio in Sheffield, after hours, after having a night out in Sheffield. And a friend said, oh, we're doing some music. Do you want to hear what we're doing? These new people that I'd just met. And, yeah, I had a little listen to what they were up to. And I went, oh, I could do better than whoever that was. And my friend gave me a microphone and said, go on then. And I went, I can actually sing. So I knew at some stage I had to do something with this. But, yeah, I parked it and had children and moved abroad and things, and yeah, for whatever reason it's come to me a little bit later in life, but that's great. I'm having a ball.
I think that this later thing in life, actually, especially when it comes to the music business, couldn't fall in a better place for people such as us, because I think, like, we come from a place where all the greatest music had already been done, kind of, you know what I mean? The greatest shit on earth, and it's like anything else. And then at one point, like they say, pop started to eat itself, and everybody started to redigest and regurgitate. You can tell, oh my God, there's a new keyboard that came out. I know what patch this guy is using right now, because everybody's freaking using that patch for the last 20 songs. You know what I mean? And we went through the birth of even drums, right? Drums used to be acoustic. And then when Simmons first came out with their stuff, and you knew that, in the Oberheim drum machine and everything came out, everything started shifting. And then it's, let's get back to the whole organic thing. And then you see where we are. The invention of the internet on its own completely shifted the values of music. And you can tell when you've been over-formulated, when you've been hypnotized. The thing that amazes me is that, like, when Auto-Tune came out, you see a lot of young people sing like there's Auto-Tune with no fucking Auto-Tune. Because they actually think that is what it sounds like, right? That, I got fucking goosebumps all over my body just thinking that a thing like that is possible. You know what I mean? I think that, having been influenced by the greatest music when it was all being created because of our bracket, and to come back now at this time and to do music because you just feel like it, to not, it's nice, Kaz, that you were just able to just decide that, you know what, I just like this shit, I'm going to do it. You didn't have to go through too much record company bullshit. Like, I was on all sides of the fence. agent, manager, mixer, booker, writer, tour guy.
Okay.
And I saw some of the nicest and the most psychotic, disgusting things in the music business that made me quit and want nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I want to get back to the roots of talking to the real people that are going to save the music industry and that are going to save creativity by getting back to being a real human and doing it for the real reasons. Love, respect, the friendship, the building of that team factor, you know. What do you think, Josh?
No pressure. I think what you were just saying about the team factor and doing it for the right reasons. I mean, that's definitely why I got into this whole thing. It is all about the people and the dynamic between them. Like when you have a group of people where you feel like you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can have like a ridiculous idea that's never going to work, and you can say that ridiculous idea, and most of the time it won't work. But you still get that, 1 in a million chance that it actually pans out. And you can't get that if you don't trust the other people to like treat that idea with respect. Yes. That's one of the things that I think we're really good at as a band.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When you're with the right people, it's like they give you extra chops and ideas just by being there with no practice. You see what I mean? You're fearless with creation. I like to call that, you cliff dive, and you know that even though you don't have a parachute, that you're going to land safely because someone's going to catch you, grab it, take you on a left turn, and it intertwines and it locks. But that's about love and respect, not about, oh, it's me, I'm the one who did that part, I did this thing. Usually, growing up, they always said, drummers were the problem. Because they always thought that, because they had the biggest kit and the whole thing, like all the girls and everything were always there to see them. And then the guitar player always wanted to be like too loud. And then the lead singer always thought that it was their band and everybody else was like full of shit, right? And that doesn't leave very many people, but the fucking bass player, who usually bass players think, we're the ones who like kind of glue the band together because we're not into the soap opera shit and we like to, make peace with everyone and whatnot, But what you guys got going on here now, that is the magic. Individual members that get together create a family dynamic where their conversations turn into music, where you don't speak anymore, right?
I remember when I started, and I know that when we were in Rubydon, I remember Stuart was saying, well, you can use pedals, you can use sound, and I'm thinking, I'm going to try that. And I'm thinking, okay, then we left Rubydon, and then I realized the composition that he was doing, and it was very ambient. And then I had to create a sound. So I just went back home and, looked at all the pedals, and, I had this boss, so I can actually program all these sound that I wanted. And then I could see that, I say to them, this is what I'm thinking. If I'm doing this composition, I'm thinking, Western. Well, Stuart says, well, I was thinking about me different. I was thinking about this band. And then Kaz would say, well, I was thinking of that. And then we all had 4 different perspectives, but it joined the same pot. So our imagination, creativity, just it's very democratic, but it works.
That's the absolute best way. Kaz, what's your writing process when this happens?
I like to let it kind of. I like to let it brew. When you found something that's got legs. When there's something and you're like, oh, that's the thing. But if you chase it too hard, it doesn't work. I have to kind of let it find me almost. But I love it when Stu says, right, I've written this thing. It's called and I'm like, oh, okay. So I know what, and I obviously get the brief and what he was thinking of and feeling of. And for some of the tracks, it came really quickly and really easily. For example, he gave me the title of a track called Billy and the Infinite Madness. And I went, well, this is going to write itself because my husband's name is Billy.
Okay.
So that was a cool and easy one. Like I say, that wrote itself. But it's, I'll get just like a whisper of something, or I'll get a bit of melody, or something will remind me of something and it will work. And I'm guided by the guys as well. Like, you know, when you found it and then there's the melody or there's the
Because you got those working titles that sometimes wind up being the name of the actual song. Sometimes it's hard to change that working title. Sometimes the name of the working title is freaking ridiculous too. I'm a strong believer in the title. I got this philosophy where I can write an EP by the 6 o'clock at night only on the strength of the titles, because I believe that a solid title has baked into it the tempo, the speed, the subject, the lyric, the colors, the vibe of the whole thing. So if you really think about it like that, like what you said about the Billy song, there's something for you to grab onto and get to work on and just get it right the freaking out of the way instead of doubting yourself all the way until the thing is finally finished. And when everybody thinks like that, you know what I mean? You're able to just plow forward and make things
not
happen.
overthinking it, I think, too. Not overthinking it and letting it just be kind of authentic. If you can latch onto that, it just happens, doesn't it? Organically, which is brilliant.
I love the organic thing. When it just comes up. Do you have to think about it? Have you ever tried, like, you hear the music or you're playing and all of a sudden you just open your face and the first words that come out is what you actually wind up using a lot of the time, or do you got to craft it out?
On what we were calling 12B for quite a long time, me and Anne actually had the same idea on that one. We were like, this reminds us of Goldfrapp, I'm thinking, just like really sultry. And then
That's right.
we had the same ideas coming through, and I just started humming along to something. I had this kind of idea of a story and it just happened, which was brilliant. That was a really straightforward, easy one for me, but we're working on some really amazing stuff at the minute. And I keep having ideas, but I know I'm not quite there with it yet, because otherwise I'll get the wrong one stuck in my head and the right one won't come through. I hope this makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense.
Kaz's crazy mind.
I totally get it. Well, you know, when I first met my wife, Creola, who's also like a really great singer and a writer, she used to have to really think about stuff a lot. And writers, she wouldn't even go on stage unless she drew herself out as to how she was going to move and do stuff. And at one point I looked at her and said,
I agree with that. That's
I
brilliant.
said, no. I says, this shit's got we're moving into instant land. You don't got to be like a rapper where the thing about a rapper that is really interesting, some rappers, they just look around and they grab information and they're able to just free flow and get right in there, right? I learned a lot from rappers, ravers, DJs, that I was able to bring into the whole, instrumental vibe kind of thing. And when you incorporate that stuff, and then I got to the point where I'm sticking a mic in front of you, the first shit that comes out of your face is what I'm using. Make sure it sounds good right now. And obviously you can't get it perfect all the time, but at least if you give yourself that kind of goal, I think what happens is you're able to push yourself harder than you normally would and wind up with really, really interesting, because like Stu was saying, colors. If you say to somebody, sing purple, red, green, and blue.
Oh, that's a cool idea, yeah.
Right. What happens to you then, right? And you're kind of forced to kind of commit to something that doesn't necessarily exist in the traditional sense, right? And this is what opens up the freaking door to creativity in a whole different way. And who can argue with that kind of shit? You know what I mean?
It's finding that thing, that flow. Me and Anne have been talking about flow a lot recently, haven't we? But you have that bit of muscle memory about a few other things, and then that happens even easier. But
because otherwise you're doomed for waiting for inspiration, right? I think inspiration is like overrated. Oh, I'm not inspired. What do you mean you're not inspired? That's bullshit. If I have to do a film soundtrack tomorrow morning and it's due like in 3 days, not being inspired is not the answer that these guys are going to want to hear when they say, where the fuck is my soundtrack, right? Therefore, you have to draw from another space, right?
Yeah.
And that is a professional thought. You will be the first one to know if it sucks, right? And if you get rid of emotional content because it's always emotional content that slows people down. You don't feel comfortable. You feel shy. You feel like, you're not confident enough, but you're actually fantastic. So that's a you problem. It's not even really a your problem. It's just something that you're projecting on yourself. Whereas,
Yeah, like a barrier. Yeah.
it's your own barrier because you're actually awesome, right? And who's telling you you're not awesome? Certainly not other people. It's the person in general who puts that barrier on top of them. And that's why I think that when that I'm not inspired anymore happens, or I have no inspiration, you have to get the inspiration from another place besides the light bulb that goes ding, right? Hence, play purple green, look around. What do you see over there? Oh, look, you got some weird looking doll with a strange look on its face. Let me see if I can sap something from that. You know what I mean? What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me a little bit of Brian Eno's creative process, right? When he talks about oblique strategies, it's this kind of angle. And play like you're chopping down a tree, or like you are planting a garden, or that you are involved in some kind of unusual moment, and you get everyone in the band experiencing or imagining different things, amazing stuff happens. And you start getting cross-pollination of ideas in an unusual way, and that's where you get this kind of chemistry that is unexpected. And that gets quite exciting, because then suddenly we're not talking about a straight-down-line sound anymore. We're talking about four people imagining different things all at the same time. And that gets quite trippy. So, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And the spontaneity brings it to life. I think one of the things that I like is to have a little bit of the stuff rough on the edges. So you get the core built, but sometimes the solos need to be a bit of improv, or sometimes you need to be able to respond and adjust for the live show. And that's kind of exciting when you are confident enough with the songs that you start just playing with them a little bit and testing yourself as well in
exactly.
In
and that has nothing to do with scales, notes, rudiments, Zippo. It's got to do play banana, hamburger, purple sky, Acapulco. What do we got?
Spaghetti Western, and I'm like, whoosh, on a horse somewhere else.
I love spaghetti Western stuff, by the way. See, I got to, and Anne knows this, I got to spend quite a bit of time with Kim Fowley. And this guy is freaking...
Crazy guy.
He's out of his freaking... Well, he's gone now. But that guy, like Brian Eno, I would say that guy's like Brian Eno on crack. Like, he changed my life in a very uncomfortable way, where he virtually looked at me and my wife and basically said, you have until the morning to write 70 songs or get the fuck out into the middle of the street right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So we wrote 70 songs in 8 hours. The shit that came out of this guy's mouth, the way he was, I mean, she was just crying on the floor. You know, like when I entered the studio, the door kicked open and some guy with a crutch that was hurt, the singer, was hobbling out, and Kim was coming at him with a freaking belt. He was going to beat him like an old school father with a belt. You know what I mean? And he was like, whoa, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So I got to see some pretty unconventional stuff that actually, like, play green, purple, blue, real thing. And in conclusion to that part of the story, what really blew my mind was after all of that, and I recorded everything on a cassette. So 2 sides, right, of like a 90-minute cassette. And he listened to it all. And then he looked at me and said, play song number 1, song number 5, number 20, number 32, thing, like this. Yeah. Names me 10 songs. And I say to him, you got to be kidding me, buddy. You want me to remember what I just played? I went in a linear fashion. I was spitting out intros, verses, and choruses, and I moved on to the next one. And he sang me back every single one of those things.
Wow.
So, you know, the attention to detail. And I think when you pull yourself out of the scale and the note foundation thing, you're left in some kind of wild kingdom of vaporous, like, inspirational stuff that you can tap onto, like some kind of spirit, and it is something that can be used in real life. You know what I mean? That not everybody's going to actually get unless you're part of a family like you guys are. something that you can talk about, discuss, and grab on to in your own way, because there is no way. It is, if you're not comfortable with it, then you're forced to learn it. What's really comfortable to a person that's different to another person is their way to learn. There is no other way. That's the way you move quickly. When you go for the part that you're naturally attracted to within the music, within the structure of construction. Otherwise, this is why I've never taken a lesson. I can play like 20 instruments and produce all kinds of shit. Your eyes, your ears, your memory are a very important thing to use as tools.
Yeah, nicely said.
Thank you. You guys recently released something called Polarity, which I love. I got to listen to like Flatlining, Dual, Diluted, Paper Cuts, which I thought were all wonderful, awesome music pieces that really make me float into my brain like I'm freaking in outer space with that like whole prog thing going on. Talk to me about the process of that, guys. This is your first effort together as Alphaline?
Yes, we're going back to the studio at the end of this month to mix the other 3 songs that we recorded, and we'll have probably another 3 ones. So probably next year there'll be more, because our sound has changed again, just like Stuart was actually talking about. And we don't want to actually rush, and that's why, Kaz is right. It's gotta come. It's by itself, and so we can all be proud of what we're doing.
Yeah. So you're telling me that it's evolved now.
Yes.
That was our first shot at putting something out. So I think it was definitely a moment in time. And of course, bands change over time. But one of the key things for us, I think, was getting those songs into a structure and getting us out there. And I think an EP is a really great format because it's the first cut, if you like, of a few key songs. Not too many to be overwhelming, but giving that first taste of what that band's doing. And that gives us a momentum to maybe look at another EP or a full album. For me, I think one of the things that we really wanted to capture here was what I would call kind of the tension between analog and digital. And there's something in that, particularly when it came down to the electronic side of it and how that creates a very simple frame, but at the same time creates something that we can build on and that base that we can paint on top of. It's also been an interesting experiment in terms of understanding, well, how do we square that circle when it comes down to using digital tools and the technology and electronica on the one side, and then an organic sound. And what are we looking at when we bring those together in an unusual way? So that, for me, was very important. And I know right now it's really Flatlining that's got that. And then also when we look at Diluted, those are the 2 tracks that really bring those dimensions together. But Flatlining, I think, for us was really probably the essence that we captured it on this EP in terms of the song that was very slow, almost like that trip hop kind of vibe, very much Bristol sound. At the same time, is layered up with a number of different styles, and that I think gives it a very ethereal feeling with a lot of depth and a lot of low end. A lot of low end coming off the keyboards and off the bass lines. And I love the way that we get those lower frequencies coming together with the electronic and real bass.
I remember Flatlining was our first song that we actually rehearsed, Joshua, Stuart and I, before Kaz added her genius. And we thought, okay, what are we going to do? And then Josh and I were thinking, all right, we can actually, bring up a bit of a Massive Attack sound and bring it on, with an amazing, ethereal, ambient style and rhythm section that is solid enough. So that composition comes out and blossoms the way we wanted it to actually bring its cornerstone to life, basically, if that makes sense. So when you actually do bass and you try to arrange the song, I have to communicate closely to Josh, but he knows exactly how he's going to capture things, and he just checks everything that I'm doing. He knew I was doing muted notes, and he knew how he was going to capture his beat with what I was actually doing. And then, of course, we had to structure a bit, the song, but there was not much to it. It just, it flew, by itself. And we did many takes
Yeah.
on this one. And then we thought to ourselves, that's going to be a hard song for the singer to actually do on flatlining. Kaz arrived. She said, I got it. And he just,
It took a little while though.
not much, Kaz, not much.
It was realizing that it needed space. It actually needed the space to breathe, which is part of the lyrics too, which I think is really
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you guys have managed to blend in exactly what you guys have described yourselves as. That electronica mixed with the trip hop, mixed with the whole Massive Attack thing. I grew up on that stuff. I thought that was beautiful. Did you guys like the whole Faithless thing
I
as
just
well?
love it. I love it.
I love that guy. I felt so bad when he passed away. It was like,
Yeah,
you know what I
it was
mean?
sad.
I'm just obsessed with it.
Oh my God, like
Yeah.
that, there's just something about that British kind of sound, whatever you want to call that over here on this side of Earth anyways, I was always fascinated with. In the days of records and stuff, we couldn't really, everything over here from you guys came in as a massive import, right? So it was like 6 times the price, so it was, oh yeah, it could cost in the early days, when I think like a record maybe cost like, I don't know, like $6 or something, it would cost like 40 or 50 to get like a record from England. You know what I mean? So, but the coolest shit came from there. And then, I can always tell when you see some kind of Canadian or American guy trying to pretend they're from England with the
And
way
you've
they
got great
dress
bands in Canada.
with
And
the
you got
accent.
most of my favorite musicians are from Canada anyway.
There's some great bands that come out of here, absolutely. But anyway, look, we're part of the same Commonwealth, right? I mean, I got the Queen on our dollar over here, and we're kind of, part of the whole British colony thing anyway, so we're connected. Tell me something. So, Anne and Joshua, so you had told me in a conversation, Anne, that you and Joshua have been playing together for like a long time, and you met. So, Josh, talk to me about when you first met Anne, and what was it like, and you knew that you guys were going to be like this awesome rhythm section that was going to keep hanging on and banging out the foundation.
Love that.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm pulling this out of you, brother. I'm going to make you talk.
The first time I ever spoke to Anne was I can't remember what website it was. Like one of those like find a band websites. Yeah. Because I had spent several years like learning drums with my teacher and practicing in my bedroom, and my teacher was basically like, go and join a band. This is the only way forward. I discovered Anne that way, and for the first, I can't remember how long it was, like 6 months, we were basically just playing covers with a couple of other people. And then Anne discovered Ruby Dawn and kind of brought me along. Yeah, I think that was where it all really began. You had to work hard.
When we actually did our first band, it was a funk cover band, doing a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then we moved on with Ruby Dawn, and then I think it started there as well. Then we had to become very creative very quickly from doing covers. Hey, and here's somebody who's doing some composition. What do you think, and what are you gonna do? And we look at each other and say, all right, I will do our best.
Yeah, because the stuff we were doing there was very a lot more atmospheric than what we're doing now.
Yes.
Which I felt like being dropped in the deep end for me. But Anne made it a lot easier because I've got this bass line I can grab onto.
Yeah, but Michelle, I have to tell you something. One day the singer was saying to us, okay, I've got that song, I want something tonight. I said to Josh, that's the first song. I can't come up with anything. But hey, we'll just jam. And he got my back, and I came up with something as soon as his drum started. It just came.
It's a beautiful thing.
He saved my back that evening, thinking, I'm not going to last very long.
It's so nice when you have a drummer that can actually respond to you. I've been, for so many years, I've been writing with drum machines and loops that I put together. And when I initially start writing stuff, I just have to call this a click with benefits, you know what I mean? And then I'll put in the passes and the shit later once I figure out what my structure's all about, you know? But there's nothing like a real drummer that responds to you and lets you create the extra, you know, dynamics on the turnarounds and, you know, the build up in the second halves and everything that normally happens when you're doing shit. It's a wonderful
Yeah,
thing.
and Josh come up said at a rehearsal and he had a few things. I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. Let's do it. So it means I'll have to change something, but it's for the better.
Amazing. Kaz, you got an amazing voice, and I really think like it's all your own. And when I'm listening to you, I
Pleasure.
get this kind of like this Anne Wilson from
I told her
Heart
about
kind of
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you
and-
did.
and-
You said this. She's
and you know-
amazing.
And you know what else I'm
Very
hearing?
kind of you to say that.
I'm hearing like old vintage, like Susie and the freaking Banshees in there as well, right?
Ah,
So am I right to assume that these might have been some of your influences or people that you enjoyed growing up? Tell us about some of your.
not initially. I'm from a house music background.
Okay.
I lived in Ibiza for many years with lots of lovely DJ friends, having lots of fun.
That's why you do that. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
maybe it's the electronic side of things, but I just love all good music. I love good music, but I couldn't pin that down to any one genre. I love it all. So I'll probably take a little bit of everything as I hear it.
Anne Wilson is like a legendary
She's
singer.
amazing.
And
Awesome.
I'm trying to figure out what song it was. It could have been Diluted, where I really am hearing like Susie and the Banshees, like some kind of
Yeah.
old school stuff.
The kind of wild,
it's
the
a good
wildness.
point.
Yeah. I try to tap into that and find my kind of rock voice as we've been going along too.
Don't
which
you
has been
find
real-
that there's some Susie and the Banshees in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I'll take that.
When we were tracking that song,
Yeah. Do you remember when
Susie came up
Definitely.
in the conversation.
I've been listening to them. I've been listening to Susan Banshees a lot in the last few months. Just amazing. Spellbound.
Oh, so okay, there you go. So see, I mentioned it. That's because I can tap into that freaking vibe. And she's back out there doing her thing, which is actually pretty cool, right? I mean, a lot of these
Unbelievable,
people,
yeah.
they're going back out there. They're doing the Cure went back out there and started doing their shit. And
Yeah, you saw them, didn't you, Stu? They were brilliant.
Yep,
Buddy's kicking ass, man.
that's right. Yeah.
And you there, the way you've been mixing keyboards, electronica, and guitar, is this a new thing for you, or have you always been into that kind of thing?
It's been a new thing. I was in a band many years ago. We called ourselves Mercurial Collective, and we messed around with electronica for about a year and never did a live show. But it was all about spending time in the studio together with
Okay.
good friends of mine in Cape Town. That was about year 2000, 1999. And that was just about us figuring out, well, how do we move from being rock and roll dinosaurs into the new electronica space? I think I drew on that kind of background when I decided to, well, how do I redefine my sound and come up with something new? And I'd never really worked with real drum machines. So what I actually picked up was a highly intuitive retro drum machine. It's a Dr. Groove DR202. It's a Boss drum machine. It's dead easy to work with. It's highly intuitive. I wanted something that I could tweak and freak out on the fly. And the same with the Arteria Microbrute, which is what I use as well. Also designed for playing live, where you've got some great filters. It's a very simple, like what I call minimum viable keyboard, if you like. Just those two linked together with MIDI to give that kind of that core. And from there, I just kind of started building out conceptually something different. But for me, it was really exciting to work with the low frequencies and to bring in this kind of idea of, how do we work with the tension that you get from the machine, and then bring in the organic emotion from the humans. And for me, that's really exciting. I know it's tough for Josh sometimes, but when we get the drum machine and the real drums together, you get some exciting different magic sometimes. For me, it's a bit of an experiment around what does it mean to be in a world of AI? And as humans in a world of AI, how do we deal with the machine and take it to a space where we still feel that we're human as part of it? So I think there's an interesting metaphor when we start messing around with electronica.
I think it's great, because when you start dropping in those electronica elements and you got like a drummer, a bass player, and a singer with a guitar player that wants to do overlays and, you know, complementary parts on top of that, I think it's a perfect underlayer for any kind of song and movie soundtrack. I like to tell people, don't bother trying to do regular songs. You need to write songs that sound like they're in a fucking movie right now. If you think like that as a band today, right off the bat, you fall into the kind of category where you actually have a chance of doing something worldwide. Like, besides having fun and loving being together. But, like, you know, the days of, like, oh, I'm going to get a hit and dee-dee-dee, forget it. Kiss your musical ass goodbye unless you are part of a show, a movie, or something that makes people feel like they're in their own movie. Or they want to tell you, you know what? That song should be in a movie, or you need to put that in one of the shows. If they ain't saying that, they're going to be judging you like a regular radio song, and you want nothing to do with that shit. And I think that you guys are headed really right up that alley. Congratulations on that. I'm so happy for you guys.
Bless you, that's so kind.
Yeah, well, it's the truth. So we are all in this digital life together now. And this has become an undeniable way to communicate, create, meet with people, and work, you know, our opportunities as well as share our work to the world digitally like never before. So what are your guys' like feelings and thoughts on this current virtual reality?
Kind of embrace it.
That's the way forward.
Let it take you or get left behind.
Absolutely.
It is kind of the future. I mean, I work remotely, so yeah, I spend way too much time in this chair. It's made me very aware that there's a lot of stuff you can only get in real life, like face to face with people. Obviously, technology exists. We could do jam sessions or like rehearsals remotely if we wanted to, and then it would have nowhere near the same energy. We probably would get a lot less done. So I think it's like, yeah, you have to use it and embrace it, but you have to balance it with
find the gel. Yeah,
you have to be a lot more conscious and deliberate about managing where you're spending your time.
But you see, I come across, you know, the bands who actually tells me that they meet, they add, you know, their compositions, you know, and then they meet, you know, once a month and then the gig and then that's it. But yes, what's missing is when you're all together, you can also create. That could be missed.
Yeah, that's the heart of it for me. I think when we all there is a magic that happens, and we leave the studio after rehearsing, and it just feels like it's still there with you after. You know, it's a thing. You can feel it. You can tap into that. It's amazing.
I think digital is exciting in a lot of different ways. On the one side, it's made the world a lot smaller, and we can connect in new ways that really makes us imagine a different type of future. On the other side, there's also things can blow up overnight in the digital space. I mean, look at Spirit Box, Canadian band, took off during COVID and lockdown.
Yeah.
Now they're an international metal band. And we've seen now suddenly new bands coming out of this kind of new paradigm. So I think that the virtual world has got a lot of new discovery coming. At the same time, there is this tension about AI, ethics, human rights, who we are as people, deep fakes. All of these dimensions are things that are a challenge for what it means to be a human being these days. And we have a balancing act between the old and new. I think the great thing about the older generations is we remember what a cassette tape was or is.
Yeah.
And that's coming back now as a thing. We remember tangible things, and what's great is when we can blend the values and promise of digital and virtual with not only the amazing possible futures, which is like the Matrix or something, but then bringing in the things that made life special, that were, you know, cotton candy or real things that we used to touch, that even go back to the culture of the 50s. So I think it's exciting because we've got that historical memory.
If you think about it, internet and everything that is happening now, I always like to say this is just a bigger version of what has always happened anyways. So before all the soap opera, like wokeism shit where, like you said, you know, bands could be born overnight from different places, but careers can be ended overnight with somebody saying one wrong thing and everybody jumping on board, and then boom, you're like history. In the old days, we had those tabloid magazines. The power of the internet, to me, has always been like the best free school on earth. But like everything else, porn basically started transaction on the internet. That's why they used to say, oh, don't put your credit card on the internet. It's like porn, right? And then eventually you had secure checkout and all this stuff, and everything winded up moving forward. And obviously, if you decide to take a quick left and a quick right and stop going to where you're supposed to be originally going, like if you're searching for the answer to something, then you're going to get lost. And what could have taken 10 minutes is going to take all day, or you might all of a sudden been looking for the answer on how to build something or how to come up with a new chord or a new concept. And now you're looking at, oh my God, here's a new house. And now I know how to mix fucking baking soda and super glue and turn it into something else. You know what I mean? And this is what music gives you, is discipline. If you're a serious professional in your general mindset, then the power of the internet combined with the real thing doesn't make you miss out on anything. As a matter of fact, it just makes you more efficient. So now you're able to write and meet and get ideas with people around the world, execute them, then get together and do it in real life. Whereas before, you'd always have to be in real life, and somebody was doing something here and something, and there was not that extra discipline where you can actually finish stuff not in a year, but in a month because of something like this. And I think people need to understand that. That's why, you can't watch the news, what is perceived as the news, because the news is only there to tell you why everything's never going to be all right. There is no solution in anything that has to do with that stuff. Hence, we could pray for everybody to be good, which is part of the good nature of what we all believe in. But then you got to move forward and become the maximum of what it is you were born to be, so that you can help others by becoming and being the example of showing people that things like that are actually possible. I think that is the key of how to use the internet to your advantage, to the best advantage, that helps everybody out and not get lost in the shuffle and bustle of the soap opera fucking bullshit, which is ridiculous and serves no purpose. I've never understood how even the people who do this, how they can go home and kiss their kids goodnight and feel okay with that they're getting up in the morning, that somebody's going to powder them 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Your fucking day is fucked. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to us on fucking Instagram and Facebook.
Even that will have to evolve, which I think is what all of this is about, which I find quite interesting. What is that going to turn into? Because that's kind of the starting point of some things for us, isn't it? The whole...
We have a choice. That's right. We have a choice about what the future can become. And there are many alternate futures that could exist. But it's based on our willpower. We can will the future we desire. But we have to choose wisely, because if we choose badly, we could end up with something that no one cares about or wants. But if we appeal to our higher form and deliver against that, we are likely to evolve in a way we can be proud of.
Nicely said.
Well said.
That's great to see that we're all on the same positive note and cusp and playing the same harmonies and notes of positivity to move forward. What's in the future for Alphaline now? So you guys you're working on a new record. You're going into the studio on Friday. Your voice is going to kick ass, and you're going to go finish some new songs.
One of which we're all very excited about.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it goes yet, though.
You've got it in your head.
That's all.
I know that.
It's there. It's there somewhere.
I talked to Michel about it, because I did say, well, music for films, we've visualized it. So Stuart, I get bored easily, Stuart. And he said to me, I've got something, this one, probably got it. And he challenged me. And it was no scales. It was a mode he used. It was very Middle Eastern. And then Josh, here's my arrangements. The last rehearsal that we did with Josh just got it everything to a T. And I was just talking to Michelle about it because I was raving about or how we are evolving as a band. Kaz, you've got it, I know that. So we started about thinking, what are you thinking, Kaz, about this song? And I'm thinking about the Silk Road, you know. I don't know about you, Stuart. I think what was originally your idea about this song before I ended up, you know, going on another tangent.
Bring a 12-string into the mix, Stu.
Exactly
You need to drop a 12-string.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Well, here it is. I've got one right here that I'm working with. So, yeah, it's definitely part of the equation.
I feel it. Dudes, you've been checking out my interview with Alphaline. We got Joshua on drums. We got Stu over here on guitar. Amazing Kaz on vocals. And my buddy Anne Emerson, who always sends me positive energy.
We will.
Thank you so much for your energy. Thinking like that helps the world.
Thank you.
Thank you for being in my digital life,
you.
like beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, my
Thank
friend.
you.
Have a beautiful,
See you.
beautiful day.
Bye.